I first and foremost want to start off by saying good morning to everybody. I know that we're gathering under unprecedented circumstances, but I really am happy to see everybody rallying for such an important cause. My name is Sabrina Bustillos, and I'm the campus organizer for Texas Rising at El Paso, as well as the chief of staff of the El Paso Young Democrats. I'm really happy to be back at my home campus this morning because I love UTEP with all of my heart. I'm especially happy that we're here with Dr. Jill Biden to invite her to kick off early voting here in the state of Texas. 2020 has undoubtedly been the worst year, to say the least, but for many of us, we're reminded that Election Day comes after a long 4 years of waiting. 4 years ago today, I was preparing to cast my ballot for who I believed would be the first female president of the United States. I'll personally never forget November 8th, 2016, because it was a shocking reminder that our country still has a really long way to go. I was reminded that for the past 4 years, I felt the same anger and frustration as a lot of people my age, because our city has seen firsthand the hateful policies that Donald Trump has implemented, some that have directly hit us close to home. And it's why, as I prepare to cast my ballot today, I'm reminded that I and so many others are not only early voting. We might be casting a ballot for Vice President Joe Biden, but we are assuring that we are going to have a Supreme Court that stands for reproductive justice. We're going to have an Attorney General that does not sympathize with white supremacists. And we're going to have somebody in charge of the Department of Education who recognizes that underserved people in the public school system deserve better. Because it's not just voting for the president. I'm happy to stand here in support of President Joe Biden because I think that he is the right choice. We're opening up a door to change the United States for the better. So as you all make your plans for early voting today, I am so happy to see all of us go back out and encourage others to do the same. Well, I can definitely recognize that voting isn't the source or solution for all of our problems. I do see the November election as hope, because after so much loss, I'm excited to personally see a team that's ready to win. As I stand here, 23 years old, after my first presidential election in 2016, I feel so much more confident that people like me are ready to support people like Joe Biden and encourage more radical and progressive policies. That's a hill that I'm personally going to die on. Well, I wish that I could excitingly hug all of you and thank you for being here today. The best I can do is thank you for your support and overall show gratitude and thankfulness that you are going to be heading to the polls today along with me. Thank you so much for hearing me out today, and I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Jill Biden to our campus.
Thank you. Good morning, buenos dias. I'm your state senator, Jose Rodriguez, and it is a pleasure to be here in this wonderful weather in El Paso for those of you who are out of town. Thank you, Young Democrats. Thank you, Texas Rising. Thanks to UTEP for hosting us here today. As a college Young Democrat, I worked on Hubert Humphrey's campaign, Vice President Hubert Humphrey, when he was running against Nixon. And so today reminded me of that because you Young Democrats are here supporting Vice President Biden for president. And today, as we heard, is the first day of early voting. How many of you have voted already? Okay, let me see those hands. Okay, there's a few here. And my wife in front being one of them. Listen, you've been hearing this. You've been hearing this. Elections have consequences. And 3.5 years ago, my wife Carmen and I went on Inauguration Day to Washington, D.C. to participate in the Women's March and protest against Donald Trump. We made a commitment, all of us who were there, that he was going to be a one-term president. And we now have the opportunity to make Donald Trump a one-term president. All right? Why is this important? Well, I don't have the time to tell you. You already know this. Issues like schools, healthcare, the environment, jobs, family. We could go on down the line. Our democracy. All of these issues are at stake and important for Americans to go out and vote in this election. And I'm sure that everybody here, being the Young Democrats and Texas Rising, is going to go out and vote. But what we need for you Young Democrats is to do what I was doing back in 1968. Go out there with door hangers and leave them on the doors. Participate in the forums that are going on virtually. Do everything you can in your power to ensure that indeed Donald Trump is a one-term president. And if you do that, I'm convinced that we will win. Now, let me just conclude by saying this. It's time that young people, I'm speaking to the Texas Rising folks and to the Young Democrats and others, it's time that young people who are eligible to vote went out and voted. Don't you agree? It is time that we participate in this process to ensure that our democracy is intact when Joe Biden comes in as our next president of the United States. It is time for Latinos in particular, since we're a predominantly Latino community, to go out and vote. We have now 480,000 registered voters in El Paso. That's 55,000 more than we had in the last election, presidential election. If we went out and voted, Latinos, young millennials, women, if we did that here in El Paso could lead the way and show the rest of the country that the next president of the United States is going to be Joe Biden. And we can then assure everyone that we will give attention to those pressing issues that I described earlier. So look, today's the start of early voting. We got 3 weeks. We got the votes here in El Paso to make the difference. So let's go out there and make that difference. Work with your friends. Call your friends. Participate in all of those election virtual forums. Be informed about the candidates at all levels. And I am convinced that if we as Latinos, as women and young voters, nothing against older folks like me, but if we all go out and vote in El Paso, we can elect henceforth, from now on, everybody from the courthouse all the way to the White House. So let's get out there and do it, El Paso. Vote for Joe Biden.
Good morning. My name is Lina Ortega. I am State Representative for District 77, El Paso. I want you to welcome, when she arrives, Dr. Jill Biden, the next First Lady of this country. I want to personally thank her for visiting our beautiful city. Today is a very important day for the state of Texas. As the senator just pointed out, it is the first day of early voting. And I believe this election is going to be the most important election in our lifetime. We will be choosing between two individuals whose differences cannot be more stark. Joe Biden wants health care for all. He stands for the rights of women, for the rights of the LGBT community, for the rights of people of color, and for our immigration community. El Paso loves its dreamers. Joe Biden supports gun reform, education equity, and he proposes to take immediate action on climate change. He, unlike Trump, has a real plan to curb the coronavirus pandemic. He has a plan on testing, on PPE, and most important, on developing the important vaccine that we all need. He does not make false claims that that vaccine will be available before the election. He has not told people to not be afraid of the virus. He does not hold large rallies with hundreds of people who are not wearing face coverings. Instead, Joe Biden knows how important it is to stop the needless deaths of people of color. And he knows how to be ready to care for those who get sick. He welcomes people of different races. He knows the importance of the border to our community and to the rest of the country. And he wants to build bridges instead of building walls, which we don't want in this community. Joe Biden will make appointments to the U.S. Supreme Court in the spirit of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He will honor her legacy and respect what she worked so hard to achieve for us, for the women of this country. We also need Dr. Jill Biden as our next First Lady. She has brought enormous attention to the sacrifices made by our military families here as well in Fort Bliss to preserve the freedoms in our country. She is passionate about education. She is a fighter for our children. El Pasoans, I urge you to go out and vote. We can make a difference in the state of Texas. We have to turn Texas blue. We need everybody in this community to go out and vote. I know that we are all looking for the dawn of a new administration and to end the last 4 years of chaos. And we can then continue to be proud to call ourselves Americans. Please vote. Thank you. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Representative Beto O'Rourke, Representative Veronica Escobar, El Paso Young Democrats President J.J. Martinez, and Dr. Jill Biden.
Good morning to everybody. Yeah, it's a beautiful one. Dr. Biden, Judge Vela, Rebecca Acuna, the best state director in the country, no offense to the other 49. We want to welcome you to El Paso. We want to welcome you back to El Paso. And we want to tell you how grateful we are to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow El Pasoans, I want you to know that Amy and I have had the opportunity to get to know Dr. Biden and her husband, Joe. And they are among the very best of us. Along the campaign trail, as we each sought the nomination of our party, you could not find a couple that were more kind or compassionate or caring, even though ostensibly we were competing against one another. They wanted to make sure that we were okay. Joe Biden, during those debates, backstage, always asked me, with genuine interest, how Amy was doing, how Ulysses was doing, how Henry, how Molly, how my kids were doing. He wasn't preparing the next attack line. He wasn't rehearsing a gotcha moment. He wanted to know if I was okay. Jill Biden, the very same way, with both me and Amy along the way. And I got to tell you, it made it such an easy decision to get behind them because I know what good people they are, how good they've been to us, and how good they will be for this country. Dr. Biden, I want you to know this. This community of El Paso is a community of strong beliefs. On this, the first day of early voting in the biggest battleground state in the Union, this is a community that believes in voting rights. In 1924, after the Texas legislature implemented the all-white Democratic primary, meaning that if you were black or Mexican American, you could not participate in your democracy, it was an El Pasoan, Dr. Lawrence Nixon, whose portrait hung in the county courthouse over which then Judge Veronica Escobar presided, who took that case to the Supreme Court of the United States of America not once, but twice. And thanks to his courage and his perseverance and his intelligence, he brought down the all-white Democratic primary in the state of Texas in 1944 and made sure that every Texan of every background, race, ethnicity, or color could vote and participate in our elections. This is a community, Dr. Biden, that believes in civil rights. Right here at this institution, a black woman who had graduated from Douglas High School in El Paso, the all-black high school, because it was the only high school that allowed her to attend. She tried to enroll here at what was then Texas Western College, denied admittance because of the color of her skin. She took that case with a little-known attorney named Thurgood Marshall to the federal bench and not only won the right to attend Texas Western College, now the University of Texas at El Paso, but helped to integrate higher education for every single Texan. That came right out of El Paso. This is a community that believes in its heritage. This is the first major American city to elect a Mexican American as its mayor in 1957 with Raymond Tejas, absolutely path-breaking for the rest of the country. And this is a community that believes in excellence. You are standing on the grounds of the only school in the state of Texas to win the men's NCAA basketball championship, the 1966 UTEP Miners. You're in the city of the 1949 Bowie Bears, Los Osos Orgullosos, who won the state baseball championship against the open racism then prevalent in the state of Texas. And this, Dr. Biden, is a community that believes in service. I just saw one of my all-time heroes, Keta Fierro, who is the former chair of our party, and she is wearing a Veterans for Biden mask right over there. This is a city that is so proud of our military service at Fort Bliss and those who put their lives on the line for this country, the veterans that we are so proud of. And lastly, this is a city that believes in community and kindness and compassion. Dr. Biden, this is one of the safest cities in the United States of America, and that is not despite the fact that we are a city of immigrants who come from the world over to find a home right here in El Paso, Texas, but it is precisely because more than a quarter in this community were born somewhere else that we are so safe, that we are so successful. Their presence, their perseverance, and their tenacity in the face of the longest odds has made us far better than we otherwise would be. This is a city that believes, and we believe, that you and your husband can win the 38 electoral college votes of the state of Texas, which more than anything else or any other state would end our national nightmare on the night of November 3rd. It would turn the page on Donald Trump and Trumpism and allow us to begin the next necessary new chapter of this country led by Joe Biden. El Paso, what do you think? Dr. Biden, this is a community that believes in the very best of us, and we know that we have found it in Jill Biden and her husband Joe Biden, and we know that he will be the next president of the United States of America with you by his side as the next First Lady of the United States of America. Now, speaking of the very best of us, I want to introduce not only the best member of Congress currently serving, again, apologies to the other 434, but as someone with some experience in the matter, the best member of Congress to ever represent the city of El Paso, Veronica Escobar.
Thank you, Beto. Buenos dias, El Paso, how are you? Doesn't it feel so good to be together under the warm El Paso sun in the heart of our community on this beautiful campus and doing it in a responsible and socially distanced way? It's so wonderful to see each and every one of you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. It's good to see you. This is such an exciting and important day, not just for El Paso, not just for the border, but for the state of Texas. And I'll tell you why. Dr. Biden, you are standing in the community that has been ground zero for some of the most hateful, heinous, abhorrent, nightmarish public policies that we have ever seen in a generation. We have been ground zero for Donald Trump's attacks on vulnerable migrants. We were the testing ground of the cruelest policy that has damaged an entire generation of refugees, the family separation policy. It happened right here in this beautiful, loving community. We have been the site of another horrific policy, Remain in Mexico. And just a few miles from here, there are legal asylum seekers waiting for their day in court, put at even higher risk during a global pandemic, stripped of their rights and stripped of their dignity. This has been the site where men in ICE detention have been bound and tied to their beds and force-fed through tubes sent down their nose. This has been the site of some of the cruelest mass detention of people whose only crime is fleeing for their lives and running into the arms of a country that was supposed to be safe, a safe haven for them. And so El Paso is the most important place, Dr. Biden, for you to begin your Texas journey, because in the face of that hate, in the face of that cruelty, El Paso has exhibited nothing but love, goodwill, charity, and kindness. We know that the current occupant of the White House does nothing but stoke hatred and division. And we have unfortunately bared the brunt of that awful burden. As we have seen hate crimes go up across the country since a racist was elected to be President of the United States of America, El Paso was not immune from that targeted hate. And Dr. Biden, on August 3rd of 2019, a domestic terrorist drove over 600 miles into the safe and secure and loving community of El Paso, Texas. And he drove here with hate in his heart, with words that echoed words that came from the President of the United States. He targeted us because of the color of our skin. He wanted to seek out and massacre Mexicans, immigrants, and in his path, he took down anyone who was in his way, of all colors, nationalities, races. We lost 23 innocent lives on that day. He injured 22 innocent people. He devastated a beautiful community. But in the face of that, Dr. Biden, we showed nothing but love. We came together that very day, Dr. Biden. There were lines wrapped around blood donation centers. El Pasoans dropped everything they were doing to help. We all came together at hospital bedsides, at funerals, at the beautiful memorial that we created above the Walmart where all that blood was shed. We embraced and we continued to demonstrate nothing but love. And so, Dr. Biden, this is precisely where you need to be on the first day of early voting in the great state of Texas, that we will flip blue and that we will deliver to President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Make no bones about it. We are going to deliver, and we're going to deliver big. You know, just for some context about why this visit is so important, this visit signals to the country that Texas is in play, and that Texas is close to delivering that monumental victory that my good friend, our great leader, Beto O'Rourke, described. We know that President Donald Trump and his campaign will engage in nothing but mischief leading up to Election Day. We know that they have tried to scare people and tell them that mail-in voting is a fraud. We know they spread Russian disinformation. We know that he is going to try to declare victory before victory is called. We know they're going to try to settle this in the courts. We know they're going to try to steal this election from the American people who are dying, literally dying for change. We know that. So what do we need to do? How do we stop that? It's easy. Vote. Yeah. You vote, and you vote like your life depends on it, because, my friends, our lives depend on this election. There has never been a more important election in our lifetimes. Never. And so if we do what Beto O'Rourke just described, if we get out of our chair, get on the phone, write checks, talk to everybody in your circle, volunteer for a campaign, volunteer for Powered by the People, and you do everything possible. Volunteer for my campaign. We will put you to work. We will put you to work. We have to wake up on November 4th completely exhausted and completely blissed out. I usually say completely hungover, but we're in mixed company, so I said blissed out. We have to wake up completely exhausted, completely blissed out, because we have delivered the greatest victory to our country that we could dream of. We will have flipped the state of Texas. And it is so doable. Here's why it's doable. In 2016, with zero resources, Hillary Clinton lost to to Donald Trump by only 9 percentage points. That was a race closer than Iowa, and millions were spent in Iowa. We did it with nothing but our feet and our ballots. In 2018, one of the most exciting U.S. Senate races in American history, when Beto O'Rourke took on Ted Cruz, only 2 percentage points separated us from making sure that a person of the people held that seat instead of the special interests. But in that year, seats across Texas were flipped. Congressional seats, commissioners' court seats, judicial seats. So we are very close. We have to put in the work to make it happen. And it will happen. I know it will. I see all these incredible faces here who are eager to make it happen, Dr. Biden. And your presence here today tells us El Paso matters. Texas matters. Latinos matter. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker. I just want to say one last thing, Dr. Biden. Welcome to the capital of the U.S.-Mexico border. Welcome to America's new Ellis Island. Welcome to El Paso. Yeah. And with that, I want to introduce a great young leader here from this campus, the leader of the Young Democrats, someone who gives me incredible hope. Help me welcome J.J. Martinez.
Before I actually speak and deliver my remarks, I want to give a quick shout out to the El Paso Young Democrats who are here today, who are doing the work to flip this state blue. I love you all. Thank you for doing this with us. And I want to thank Congresswoman Escobar for the introduction and welcome Dr. Biden to UTEP and to El Paso. You know, the good book tells us that we ought to do 3 things while we are on this earth. That we ought to seek justice, that we ought to love mercy, and that we ought to walk with humility. Many of you know, who are here today, who know me, know that I am the son of immigrants. My father grew up in Durango, Mexico, and he was raised by his grandmother while his mom came to the United States and cleaned houses so that she could send money back home. Against all odds, he came to El Paso because, like so many El Pasoans, so many of you that are here today, he knew that for all of its imperfections, this country was the place where he could do more, where he could be more. And it is in this place, at this university, that he went from not speaking a word of English to getting a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctorate degree in education.
Wow.
But his story is a story that is shared by so many people in this city and so many people across this country. His story is the story of El Paso, yes, but it is also the story of America. Like so many people, especially the young people that are here today who are doing the hard and necessary work, he knew coming here and now calling this place home that America is worth fighting for. My friends, this election, we are faced with a choice. We can choose justice, mercy, and humility. We can choose to show this state what it means to keep on fighting. We can choose to show this country what my father knows, what I know, what all of us here know, what Dr. Biden knows. That we, like the star that shines on our mountain, are people of light, are people of goodness. In this election, we can choose to change the course of this nation, not just for the next 4 years, not just for the next 8, not just for my generation or your generation, but to change this country for the better, for the generations that follow ours, and for the next decade and beyond. My friends, now is not the time for complacency. Now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now is not the time to stop fighting for this community, for this state, and for this country. My friends, this is the time for all all of us, regardless of the things that so often divide us, to stand up together as El Pasoans, as Texans, as Americans, and say that when it mattered most, when the future of our country and the future of our city was on the line, when everything that we know and love was at stake, that we chose justice, we chose mercy and humility and compassion and light. Yes, that we chose it at the ballot box. Yes, that we chose it on November 3rd, but that we chose those things for the future of our city. And so, my friends, it is in that spirit, believing more than ever in the promise of El Paso and in the promise of America, that I am honored and humbled to introduce to you somebody who believes in that very same promise, who embodies the very best of us, and who knows that we can never stop fighting for what is good and what is right. My friends, please help me welcome the next First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's do it, Dr. Biden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, JJ, and thank you for being here. You know, even though I know that you are busy with your studies here at UTEP, you know, I've seen it so much as I travel this country. Young people who are juggling school and work, who are helping to support their families, or figuring out how to navigate remote learning, but still finding the time to show up and volunteer. And your generation, JJ, inspires me. And so I'm so glad to be on this team with you. So thank you, JJ. And Beto, you and Amy, you know, you're doing so much for this country. And it's great to have you on our team as well. And thank you for all that you do for your community. And your story was so beautiful of the history and what this city means and the people here. It gave me a real flavor for how, you know, where you live. And as we traveled together, you know, it was, I used to write notes to Amy. You know, you don't think the spouses, it's a little tough for the spouses because we're always sort of behind the scenes. But we actually form a pretty tight bond of friendship. Even though, you know, our spouses are competitors, we always kind of stick together because we all feel like we're on the same team. And I would also like to thank Veronica Escobar, Representative Joe Moody, and Sabrina Bastillos, and our organizer, and my friend, Judge Rosevella. Where are you, Rose? Oh, there she is, who is traveling with me today. So, you know, how is everybody feeling on the day of the first vote? Are you ready to get to work? So a few weeks ago, I spoke to a public school counselor who told me something that really wasn't that easy to forget. She said to me, Jill, the two most important roles of my life are being a school counselor and being a mom. And right now, I feel like I'm failing at both. Parents want to have answers for their kids. But over these last 4 years, so many parents have told me that they have so many more questions than answers. They ask me things like, how do I keep my family safe during this pandemic? What if a shooting happens at our kids' school? What do I do if I lose my job? And how do I tell my kids to be kind when our leaders don't live up to that same standard? And it's just not the parents. All of us feel it. The chaos of this moment, the magnitude of the loss that surrounds us, the little things we never thought we'd lose, like hugging our friends or smiling at strangers on the sidewalk. Still, we keep going, don't we? What else can we do? And Joe and I know that feeling so well. 4 days after our son Beau's funeral, I watched Joe shave and put on his suit. I saw him steel himself in the mirror, take a breath, put his shoulders back, and walk out into a world empty of our son. He went back to work as your vice president. That's just who he is. There are so many times when I couldn't even imagine how he did it, how he put one foot in front of the other and kept going. But I always understood why he did it. For the daughter who pays for her mom's breast cancer screening and misses work to drive her mom to the clinic. For the community college student who has faced homelessness and abuse, but finds the grit to finish her degree. For the little boy whose mom is serving as a Marine in Iraq, who doesn't complain when the only thing he wants for his birthday is to be with her. Over these years, Joe has faced unimaginable tragedies, but his purpose has always driven him forward. His strength of will is unstoppable, and his faith is unshakable. Because it's not in politicians or political parties, or even himself. It's in the providence of God. His faith is in you, in us. Through it all, raising our sons and our daughter Ashley, Joe learned how to heal a broken family. It's the same way you heal a nation, with love and understanding, and with small acts of kindness, with bravery, and with unwavering hope. Joe will be a president for all Americans. And Joe has a plan to end this pandemic, to rebuild, to reimagine a future that's better than ever. And that means supporting our military community and recognizing our sacred obligation to properly prepare and equip our troops when we send them into harm's way, and then to care for them when they return home, both when they're deployed and when they come back. That means opening up our schools and child care programs safely so that parents can get back to work. It means protecting pre-existing conditions and making prescription drugs affordable. And it means giving hate no safe harbor and passing common sense gun laws to keep our families safe. And it means creating millions of good-paying jobs. When Joe is president, you won't read the news shaking your head with tense shoulders or go to bed worrying that, about what our government is going to do, because he's going to be someone who brings out the best in us, someone our kids can look up to. Wouldn't that be a nice change? Yeah. Right now, there are so many who want to tell us that our nation is hopelessly divided, that our differences are irreconcilable, that our communities are fractured beyond repair. And beneath that is another message. Your voice can't fix it. Your vote doesn't matter. But that's not who we are, is it? In this pandemic, we are supporting each other. We're finding mercy and grace in the moments that we might once have taken for granted. We're seeing that our differences are precious and our similarities are infinite. Democrat and Republican, urban and suburban, east to west, north to south, coast to coast. Our communities are showing that the heart of this nation still beats with kindness and courage. We don't agree on everything, and we don't have to. We can still love and respect one another, right? We care more about people than politics, and we know we're not broken. We're just becoming something new. Cynics play to our fears. They tell us that we can't make a difference because they don't want us to try. They know that together, our voices are more powerful than they ever could be. We just have to show them our power. We have to show them that we're not going to sit by and watch what happens. We're going to decide what happens. For the first time in a long time, winning Texas is possible. Not just for Joe, but for the Senate and the State House as well. And if we win here, we are unstoppable. So today, the first day of early voting. So tell me, how many of you have voted already? Wow, a lot of you. Okay, so let's do it today. I already saw on social media the lines are so long. I was in Georgia yesterday, and people were telling me they had waited, that was the first day of early vote in Georgia. Some people waited in line for 4 hours. I talked to a man who had gotten there at 4:30 in the morning to make sure that he could vote. So I want to ask you, if you're not already involved, but I'm sure you are, or else you probably wouldn't be here. But I know you're busy. I know you're stretched so thin. But this election is too important not to do every single thing we can. Because this is it. This is it. There are no do-overs. In this election, we have to believe that our communities are stronger than the challenges they face, because they are. We have to believe that our votes matter, because they do. We have to show up right now, today, put our shoulders back, and work like we have never worked before. One vote could make the difference between winning and losing a precinct. One precinct could win a state. And one state, this great state, could decide our future generations, for generations to come. So will you be that one vote? Yeah. Will you join this movement? Yeah. Will you show the world that our nation believes in justice and compassion and unity and justice? Will you vote today for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Because when you do, I know that we will win. I want to thank you for all that you are doing for your communities. I want to thank you for showing up right here today and now. And most of all, I want to thank all of you here, all of you in El Paso, all of you in the great state of Texas, for your faith in a belief that's bigger than any one of us. And that is, we will build a better nation because we are going to do this together. Thank you all.